Apply to hundreds of job posts across different employment websites but hardly hear back. Have no idea what companies are out there or which one or ones to apply for. Most importantly, if you're graduating but still don't even know where to start, then today's video is for you because I'm going to share with you many actionable tips to help you get started with exploring different companies as a STEM graduate, and also the industrial insider secrets about different positions. I also want to share one of my favorite quotes with you. Luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity. Now let's get some preparation work done today. Hello world, welcome back to my channel. I'm a biomedical engineering grad alumni, and I'm now working at a clinical product manufacturing lab at a medical center. I have a series of BME videos here to help you get ready for your grad school and career. In this channel, I share my academics, career, and also my life here in the US. Although most of my videos are highly focused on biomedical engineering, today's video should be applicable to most STEM degrees. I talked about the top 5 industries for a BME grad in my last video here. Make sure you check it out because it serves as a foundation for today's content, and we're digging deeper today. I know most people, including myself, tend to look for our first or next positions by casting a wide net, meaning going through all these employment search engines like Indeed, Glassdoor, ZipRecruiters, just to name a few. There's nothing wrong with that per se, because casting a wide net can help us increase the probability of finding a job to a certain degree. But the problems I found myself run into include the following. First, I realized that this approach can be quite inefficient and out of focus because I have to apply to a significant number of job posts in order to even get a response. By the way, I think at one point the total number of job posts I applied to was about 100 something, and I definitely know some of my friends who hit a much higher number than I did. And secondly, I definitely didn't remember most of the positions I applied for or the companies. I should even admit that I didn't even care too much for most of those companies or positions, because when I applied at that speed within such a short amount of time, it's really hard to remember or even pay attention to all the details in a job post, which made applying for a position became just a mechanical activity. And lastly, a little bit about my background here. I went straight to undergrad after high school and went straight to grad school after undergrad. And I took classes and worked part-time on campus for most of the summers. So my total amount of non-school related experience is really not that much. So I applied to a bunch of entry-level positions, but you know what? Most of the positions that claim to be junior or entry-level are actually not, because many of them specified school experience is not counted. Like, what the heck? In the later chapters, I will share with you an interesting story about how I got my current and my first ever position as a senior GMP technician at a medical center. And I will also share with you some insider secrets from my former colleague who graduated with a bachelor's degree but with a number of years of industrial experience about why many entry-level positions are actually not entry. Make sure to keep watching. So the first part I want to talk about today is why we should do our own due diligence and how to do it before graduation. The main points in this part will include things like what and where the biotech, pharmaceutical, medical device companies are out there, how to do a basic research about these companies, and how to use LinkedIn's people option to find out what people in your field are doing and where. One of the things I regret the most is that I didn't even think about doing this research before graduation. And this research takes a lot of thought and time to figure out a working system that works for yourself, let alone the time needed to build your network capital. This is an approach I recently discovered to do my own due diligence, so I just wanted to share some thoughts and document my practice process. Hopefully it'll be helpful for you too. So here's my tip number 1. We have already been working with these companies, although indirectly. It may be pretty common for us to omit some of the most valuable or obvious things right under our eyelids because we're always looking ahead. Next time you enter your lab, I encourage you to pay very close attention to your lab surrounding, like looking at all the supplies on your lab bench, your stock room, tools, devices, and equipments you use. And guess what? We're all customers of all of these companies who produce these things. Here are some of the things I would have asked myself to pay attention to. Who is the manufacturer? Where is the manufacturing plant? What's my user experience of these products? How and why are some tools or softwares are easier or more difficult to use than the others? Unfortunately, I don't have access to a college lab anymore to film a video of what I used to use in grad school, but here I included a list of some of the common companies I found that produce a variety of chemicals, supplies, devices for college labs, and with their headquarter locations, both within the US and overseas. Don't worry about taking notes right now because I've included all the free PDF downloads in the description box below. And here I just want to briefly introduce Thermo Fisher Scientific, and I'm gonna call it TFS from here on out. TFS is a huge biotech company. It has a portfolio of over 500,000 products for life science, pharmaceuticals, biotech, clinical diagnostics, and environmental testing. It has acquired many companies over the years, like Gibco on the second of my list here is one of them. You remember DMEM for cell culture, right? So Gibco was acquired by TFS in 1984, and since then, the Gibco brand has become one of the most widely recognized brands in the life science industry. And there are a bunch of other well-known ones under the TFS shown on this list here.
Here, let me use BD Medical for a brief company research demo. Just by searching it on Google, you will know that BD is a publicly traded American multinational medical technology company with its headquarters in Franklin Lakes, New Jersey. Moving on to our company page, you will find BD's company mission, and they have a portfolio of products in medical discovery, diagnostics, and the delivery of care that serve healthcare settings such as diagnostic lab, research lab, hospitals, analytics, pharmacy, and surgical units. And it has 3 separate business segments that encompass different areas. Like the BD Interventional focuses on developing surgical interventions. BD Medical focuses on diabetic care. And lastly, BD Life Sciences focuses on innovative solutions for diagnostics.
And lastly, just a quick note about using the LinkedIn people function. So my trick is that instead of typing in an individual's name, I would type in the position I'm looking for. I'm not gonna lie that building networks and making cold calls are definitely not my strongest suit, but this approach helps me achieve 2 things. The first thing is I would know what and where people in my field are doing and how does their career progression looks like and their credentials like degrees and schools, etc. The second is if they have a bulleted description under their current position, I would get a brief picture about what the main responsibilities for their positions. I like to read this because oftentimes I find the job descriptions under the job post quite tedious and even out of focus, which fails to give me a big picture of how this position actually looks like. Alright, I hope these tips help you get started on your own job search due diligence in the STEM field. The next part I want to cover today is about a general career progression in the STEM field. A quick and dirty way to summarize the advancement pathway is that one would start from the entry level and then move to the mid level and then senior level, and on top of the ladder, leadership and executive. Alright, let me go through this one by one right now. So entry-level positions generally require a bachelor's degree in a relevant field, and common job titles for this level include keywords like technicians, specialists, assistants, associates, and scientists, etc. And it's also pretty common to see that one level has different rankings, like technician 1, 2, and 3. And a more senior ranking usually indicates more years of work experience is required, or sometimes a higher degree can substitute for a number of years of work experience. I've promised I would share with you an interesting story about how I got my current and first ever job experience right. So the story goes something like this. So one day I received a phone call from a staffing agent, and she told me there was a position open in this location if I was interested. Honestly, this location was pretty far from me, and I've recently just been through a long distance move, and I really didn't want to move again. I guess she probably figured from my tone. And then she went on saying, would you be interested in these positions in these cities because you live closer to them? And that her husband was working at this medical center and they had a few lab positions open. and she could forward my resume to them if I would like. Honestly, part of me was thinking, why would she even do that? Because she wouldn't be making a commission from that. And part of me was like, for sure, why not? And from then, the hiring process went really fast. It only took like 3 weeks from submitting my application to getting the offer. I really appreciate her up till today because last year's economy wasn't so good and a lot of companies were at a hiring freeze. And before that phone call, I actually have been applying for jobs for 3 to 4 months already. I guess I was really lucky to have received that phone call. Although this experience was fun and all, that's why I wanted to share why and how to do our own due diligence so that we can create our own luck and own more control on our career drive. Then I also promised I would share with you the insider secrets about why some entry-level positions are actually not entry. I used to have a misconception about higher degree or better grades will make someone more competitive in the job market. But the truth is, not always, maybe even not most of the times. Of course, it depends on the organizations and positions you apply for, but what I'm talking about here is more of a general setting. And the insider secret here is work experience. I know I mentioned many times that work experience is really critical in the US. Maybe you can share a little bit about your background and in your country. And today I want to share my former coworker's story to explain my misconception. So my former colleague has an undergrad degree in biomedical sciences, but with 3+ years of industrial work experience in the medical device manufacturing line. And he has shared that many companies really prefer to hire people who come in with experience because it helps them to save a lot of time and money compared to training someone fresh out of school, especially candidates who are well trained from a well-recognized organization like himself. So in short, his timeline goes something like this. He started with a Tech 1 position after undergrad and worked there for 2 years and then moved up in seniority. And then he moved to my current organization, where he used to work for 1.5 years. And then he just recently moved to a private biotech company within the state for a more advanced technician position, but with a much better benefit package. In fact, the benefit package could be quite different depending on the organization, even for the same or similar position title. And that's why some places are just good for getting the experience, for reasons like the promotion path for a position is either too long or unclear. And that's the phenomenon I have been seeing lately, where when people get more experience and better trained at that position, and they started to demand a higher pay, which is faster than the path an organization lays out for that particular position. So it may be better off just moving to a different place. And with that said, assuming someone just fresh out of college with little work experience were to apply to the same position, even if they graduate with much better grades or better school, a candidate like my former coworker will most likely still outcompete. Although I'm not trying to generalize for all positions, commonly an advanced degree may be able to substitute for 2 years of working experience. So if a position requires a bachelor's degree with 2 years of experience, so a master's degree can substitute for that 2 years. And I don't want to cram too much information in today's video, but I do plan to share more tips and tricks on how to get that work experience for someone who just fresh out of college in my next video. Make sure to subscribe for that. Alright, I talked way too much for the entry-level positions here, and I'm gonna go through the rest of the levels relatively faster here because they mainly just differ in the number of years of work experience or higher degrees. So for mid-level positions, they generally require a bachelor's degree with 3 to 5 years of experience or a master's degree with 1 to 2 years of work experience. And keywords in this type of positions include something like lead, senior, supervisors, or etc. And for senior level positions, these positions typically require a PhD or extensive work experience in relevant field, like 8 to 10 years. So the common keywords for the senior level positions are usually principal scientists or engineer, directors, associate directors, managers, etc. Lastly, leadership and executive position is on the top of the career ladder. Honestly, at this stage of my life, I haven't really searched for these positions, but I would assume that these positions probably required decades and decades of work experience, management skills, and often an advanced degree. And I will also leave a few links below about the hierarchy of job titles for the general STEM field for you to read later on. Alright, I've included a loaded amount of information here, and let's briefly recap. So in the first part, I encourage you to pay attention to your lab surroundings, and you have been, although indirectly, working with these companies. Just pay attention to what they do, what they sell, where they are, what's your own user experience, and how you are able to contribute or be a partner with them. And secondly, start doing your job search due diligence right now while you still have access to the lab. But if you are like me who realized this after graduation, it's never too late to start. And just remember, doing due diligence does take time. And I just give you a list of companies as a starting point and how I look up information about a company. This approach at least helps me funnel down from the industry down to individual company so that I can apply for the positions with a much better focus instead of casting a wide net. And lastly, I've shared with you what a career ladder looks like in the STEM field and some insider secrets about why some entry-level positions are not entry. I know I haven't talked too much about how to get in the industry in the first place. Make sure to stay tuned for the next video where I will share all the lessons I learned. See you there.